What if I told you you could build highly performant server-side applications with Node.js without using Express? Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I will show you how to get started building server-side applications with Fastify and Node.js. Fastify is a relatively new kid on the block of server-side frameworks for Node.js. It offers a lightweight, modern, and pleasing fast performance of up to 50,000 requests per second, twice of what Express offers us. Well, in today's video, I will show you how to get started building your very first backend application with Fastify and Node.js. If you think that makes sense, then absolutely smash the like button. Ensure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification to get access to all of our videos as they drop. If you have experience using Fastify, then I would love to hear your thoughts on the framework in the comment section. Let's get started with the following talking points. We are going to look at how to set up a basic Fastify server. We are going to look at how to make GET requests. We are going to look at how to add schema validation. We are going to look at how to make post request and pass request body. We are going to look at how to make put/patch request, and finally we are going to look at how to make a delete request. Let's dive into our code for today. First of all, I will navigate to the folder where I store all my tutorials, and then I will create a new folder called Nest Fastify. I will navigate into that folder and open it up in VS Code. Then I will use the npm init command to generate a new package JSON file. I will install Fastify and add Fastify/course to allow us to use course for this backend application. I will create a new JavaScript file named index.js, and then I'll open up this file inside of VS Code and import Fastify using the require command while ensuring I initialize the Fastify function to give us a Fastify server object. The next step would be to start the server, and I will achieve this by creating a start function. This is going to be an asynchronous function, and inside of this function, I will add a try-catch block. Inside the try block, I will await a call to Fastify.listing. The listing method allows us to listen for a connection on a specified port, which is going to be 3000 in this case. Then I'm going to console log server running on port 3000 just notify us that the server was started successfully. Inside the catch block, I will console log any errors encountered while trying to serve up the application, and then I will call process.exit with 1. Passing in 1 allows us to know that this application crashed with an error. Then I'm going to call this start function to start up the server, and then I'll open up the package.json file and add a dev script that uses nodemon to serve up the index.js file. I will run npm run dev from the terminal, and you can see that our app is now running on port 3000. The next step would be to add a GET request to a /route just to test out this server. You can think of it as a simple way to ping our server. I will call the Fastify.get method to add a new GET request to the server, and this is similar to how it works in Express. The first argument is the route, and in this instance it's just going to be a /route. The next argument is going to be a controller function for the route. This function will take in two arguments. The first is going to be the request object, and the second is going to be the response object. Inside the function, we will just return an object with a message property that reads hello world. This is one thing I really love about Fastify. Anytime you use the return keyword inside a controller function, it will actually return the data back to the client, which is unlike in Express, where you absolutely have to use the response object to send a response back to the client. I'm going to add a .http file to test this route at, and inside the HTTP file, I will add a GET request to localhost port 3000 /, and you can observe that we get the right response in the response tab. Now let's go ahead and add some crude features to this server. I will add a variable users, which is an array, and it will contain mock data because I do not want to overcomplicate things by adding a database connection. So this mock data will serve that purpose. Inside this array, I will have two user objects, okay? Then I will register another GET request to a /users route. Inside the controller function, I will return an object with a success property, which is true, a data property, which is the users array. Testing this out, you will see that we get an object with a success property, which is true, and a data property, which is the users array in the response tab. Now, let's try to fetch a single user by their ID. I will register another GET request to the /user /ID route. This is quite similar to what we do in Express. Again, the /ID is the root param, and inside of this controller function, I will extract the ID from the request params. I will use the ID to find the user from the users array, and then I will ensure I use the parse int function to convert the ID from a string into a number. I will check if the user with that ID does not exist, and then I will set the status of the response to 404 and return an object with a false success property and an error object that reads user not found. After that, I return an object with a success property that is true and a data property which is equal to the found user. That is, if the user with that ID exists, we are just going to return it. Okay, testing this out with an ID of 1 gives us the first ID in the user array. Now let's handle a post request, but first I want to show you how to use the built-in schema validation method that comes with Fastify to validate data being sent to your server. And for that, I will create a new variable, post schema, which is going to be an object literal. I will add a body property on it, and I will set the type to be an object. Next, I will ensure the name and the email properties are required on the request body by adding them to an array, which is the value of the required property. Next, I will add a properties object to the schema, and on it, I will add a name property whose type will be a string. I will also add an email property whose type will also be a string. I will set the format to email to ensure that Fastify validates the email property from the request body to ensure that it is a valid email address. I will register a post request to the /users route. Then I will add the post schema as a middleware, and then I will add a controller function inside it. Inside of this controller function, I will extract the name and email from the request body, and then I will create a new user object, incrementing the ID with the length of the user's array. I will push the new user inside the user's array and set the response code to 201. Then I'm going to return an object with a success property which is true and a data property which is equal to the newly created user. Testing this out with a user with an email property which is john@gmail.com and a name property which is John, you will see that we get a newly created user in the response tab. Now let's handle an update request, and for that I will register a put request to /users/ID. Then I will add a controller function, and inside it I'm going to extract the ID from the request params. Then I will extract the name and email from the request body. I will use the ID to find the user index from the user array, and if the user index is not found, then I will set the status of the response to 404 and send an object with a false success property and an error string which reads user not found. However, if the user index exists, I use it to update the users in the user array, and then I will return an object with a success property which is true and a data property which is the updated user. Testing this out with an ID of 1 while changing the name to Mary and the email to mary@gmail.com, you will see that we get the success property which is true and the updated user. Finally, the last thing we have to do is to handle deleting users, and for that I will register a delete request to /users/ID route. Inside the controller function, I will extract the ID from the request params, and then I will use the ID to find the user index. If the user index does not exist, then I will set the status of the response to 404. I'm going to send an object with a success property which is false and an error, user not found. However, if the user index exists, I will use the user index to splice the user from the user's array and send back an object with a success property which is true and a data property which is the found, or rather the deleted user. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope you found it useful and interesting. As always, smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell notification so that you get access to all of our videos as they drop. Ensure to leave your comments about this video and share your experience about using Fastify if you already have experience with Fastify. If you love to see me do an in-depth video show you how to build something useful with Fastify, then leave that in the comment section. I will gladly do that video if I see a comment that get enough likes, and I'm going to see you in the next one.